Dad works all the time. I was actually in another room when I overheard my then 10-year-old say that to my wife, Candy. And in the moment, it was heartbreaking. But actually, the first emotion I felt, it wasn't heartbreak. It was anger. My immediate thought was, that's not true at all. I remember wanting to storm into the next room and make my case about how I don't work all the time, which I realize now is a ridiculous thing for a human to do, let alone a father. But his comment caught me off guard because I was already working less than I ever had as an employee when I worked for someone else. I was probably putting in 35, 40 hours a week. I wouldn't have my phone out when I was spending time with the kids. And at the time, I literally didn't feel like I could work less. I felt stuck. But my son saying those 5 words, Dad works all the time, they stuck with me. So I just kept trying to work less. Adding systems to my business, changing the way I organize my calendar. Have you done any of these? Batching tasks, day blocking, time blocking, all the things. And as a lifelong efficiency geek, I thought I'd done everything that I could do. And other people would notice. My clients would regularly ask, how do you get so much done in so little time? And I would proudly share the time management hacks that I used. The problem with time management strategies is they only save us minutes in many cases, not hours, let alone 20 hours per week. So that dad guilt stayed with me. I felt trapped. I kept plugging along, fully grateful. I want to be clear, fully grateful for the fact that I own my own business, that I could earn enough money, that I got to do something that I loved. But in 2023, I started thinking more deeply about time freedom. And that's when I had this simple realization. There's only one path to gain true time freedom with an online business, and I wasn't focusing on that path because I thought I had a time management problem. I've taken that thing, doubled down on it, and that's allowed me to run and grow my business in about 20 hours a week, being done by lunch. It allows me to dedicate time to other things that give me joy and purpose. There are even times where, during the summertime, my family takes 6 to 8 week summer trips as a family. And I know sometimes during those trips, I'm working as few as 5 hours a week. So what was it that made the difference? What was it that allowed me to make more money while working way less? That's what I'm sharing right now. The one thing that separates what I call a done-by-lunch entrepreneur from other online business owners, what to do if you think this doesn't sound possible for you, and a psychological trick that you can use to work 5 hours less per week starting next week. Welcome to Done by Lunch Entrepreneurs, where every episode is designed to help you run and grow your business in half the time. Oh wait, are you done? So you can move on to other things that give you purpose. Let me start with a question. Why did you become an entrepreneur? If you're like most of us, you did it for control and freedom, right? Control and freedom of our schedule, our income level, the actual work we do. Whether you've always been an entrepreneur, or maybe you're like me and you worked as an employee for many, many years before making the leap, that's why we do it. Control and freedom. Yet so many of us just end up working more, or in my case, working similar hours, but with the additional stress of running your own business and without the security and perks that come with employment, paid vacation, health insurance, things like that. So I want to introduce you to the idea of what I call being a done-by-lunch entrepreneur. This is a different kind of online entrepreneur, and any of us can become one, okay? And by the way, if we don't know each other yet, my name is Jerry Potter. Yes, it rhymes with the boy wizard. And the simple idea is that you run your business in about 20 hours per week or less while still making the money you want to make or more. My income has gone up, even though I work way less than I used to. So you can have $10,000 months, $20,000, $40,000, $50,000 months and still be done by lunch. And the done by lunch idea actually started accidentally a little over 2 years ago for me. I was hired by a company called Social Media Examiner to host one of their podcasts, the Social Media Marketing Talk Show. And we live streamed the show on Fridays at 12 p.m. my time, right around lunchtime, right? And that actually started a new tradition in my marriage. Since the kids were at school, and since I had this commitment every Friday and some extra income from it, I invited my wife, Candy, out for a lunch date each week. And after that, I started making sure I got all my work done on Friday mornings because I hated coming back from our lunch date and then having to log back in to do more. And then here and there, I started realizing I could do that on other days too. And all of a sudden, it became very apparent that I could run my business and be done by lunch every day leaving me time to focus on other things like my health that I'd been neglecting. I volunteer with a local organization helping small business startups get going with their marketing, pick up my kids from school. We travel more. It has opened up all kinds of possibilities. Imagine what your life could be like as a done by lunch entrepreneur. Spending your afternoons doing the things you want to, which could be learning, reading books, painting, or some other creative output. Writing that, what's that show? That Bridgerton fan fiction you've been putting off. But it also means you can do bigger things like pursue ideas without having to obsess over whether or not they work, which is one of my favorite things to do. It means you get invited to go on last minute trips and actually say yes, or you get invited to that random niece's wedding. And even though it sounds fun, previously you felt like you couldn't take time away from the business, well, now you can. You're opening yourself up to all the opportunities available to you, almost eliminating the phrase, sorry, I can't, from your vocabulary. You can still say, sorry, I don't want to. We actually have an upcoming episode about what happens when no becomes your default answer, something I tried in my life. But the impact of having wide open spaces during your day or your week makes magical things happen. You'll begin to notice amazing opportunities you were too busy to notice before. The vision you have for the future of your business becomes so much more clear. And you don't have to cut your income or, somebody asked, oh, so do I have to live somewhere cheaper? Do I have to live in a shack? No, you don't have to compromise your values, change who you are, change your lifestyle, or move somewhere cheaper. None of that. Now, if this sounds good, but it sounds too good to be true, I'm going to talk about how to approach this in just a minute. But believe me, I'm well aware that this idea will be met with skepticism by some people. I can never afford to cut my workload and be done by lunch. Must be nice, Jerry. In fact, honestly, I might as well share this. Because of the potential skepticism around this idea, I almost didn't move forward with it. I didn't know if it would resonate or if people would think it was too radical. I kind of went through that same, you've probably done this, that same emotional plummet I think most of us go through when we create something new and we go down the, well, what if this doesn't work rabbit hole? But then I flipped it and I said, what if this does work? I imagine the ripple effect it could have. Entrepreneurs with more time for purpose-driven activities, improving mental health, reducing burnout, inspiring others to start businesses that make the world a better place. And that's why I moved forward with it and why you and I are here right now. Because what if it does work? Because for most of us, entrepreneurship is our dream, right? And I didn't want people to have their dreams die because they got burned out. There are plenty of people out there preaching hustle culture. You know the ones, right? Like, oh, if you're making time for Netflix, you're not working hard enough. Forget that. We can have both. I wanted to speak up for the rest of us. So what do our businesses need to achieve true time freedom? It's not about, this is the key part here, it's not about getting more work done in less time, okay? That's time management, and that's not what this is. It's about creating things that do the work for you. It's about building your business out of high leverage assets, or HLAs, as I like to call them. What is a high leverage asset? Well, it's something that's going to do the work for you. And I'll give you some examples in a moment. But here's the definition that I've been working with. This may evolve over time. But a high leverage asset, or HLA, takes time to create. But once it's done, it does work for you around the clock. It's not a single use asset like so many things we do in our businesses. This is an evergreen asset. So imagine how good it can feel to create something once and then have it work for you all the time. When it comes to your time, this is literally the highest return on investment possible. If you only do client work, the moment you stop doing work for them, all the income would immediately vanish, right? But done by lunch entrepreneurs using these HLAs can be so effective that you could literally stop working and income would keep coming in, possibly for years. So let's talk about some examples for each of the 3 parts of an online business. And by the way, I'm going to share several examples. Don't think that you need all of these. Adding just one can revolutionize the way that you run your business. And you may already have one and maybe be considering another one, but I just don't want anyone to feel overwhelmed by the possibilities here. I'm sharing these to demonstrate what I've done and what's possible. So as an online entrepreneur, we need 3 things. Number 1, traffic. We need a new way for people to discover us regularly, right? We need leads. We need new people coming in. Number 2, conversion mechanism, a way to nurture and turn the people who discover us into buyers. And number 3, a delivery mechanism, a way to deliver the things that you're selling. Those 3 things: traffic, conversion, delivery. Let's look at specific examples. Starting with traffic, in some ways, this can be the most crucial to being a done by lunch entrepreneur if you don't have it. Because if you don't have enough people to make offers to, it's much harder to decide you're done by lunch or by 3 or 4. So high leverage assets for traffic include YouTube channels. That's the primary one that I use. Podcasts, which I also have, obviously. An engaged email list that you can sell to over and over again. And I included paid ads in this list as well, if you can get them working. Paid ads can be expensive and dangerous and confusing, but they're absolutely a high leverage traffic asset when they work well. I don't include most social media platforms on this list because for the most part, if you stop posting on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or LinkedIn, your traffic can vanish almost instantly. But if I stopped posting on YouTube or stopped publishing a podcast, I would continue to get new traffic and leads for a long time. And I know this because I've done it. I've taken breaks, and that type of content continues to get views and generate leads. Actually, I looked this up right before I recorded this just to demonstrate. The most viewed video on my YouTube channel in the last 28 days got 4,602 views during that 4-week period, okay? The number one video in the last 28 days, over 4,000 views, it came out 2 years ago. In fact, if you look at my top 10 videos from the last month, only one came out this year in the last 8 months, 9 months or so, while others are from almost 5 years ago. So those are traffic HLAs. Next up is a conversion high leverage asset or a conversion HLA. And popular ones are on-demand content like webinars that can convert people, video series, automated email campaigns. In some cases, especially for less expensive offers, a conversion HLA could simply be a high converting sales page. But basically, it's anything that will convert someone into a client or customer without your help. There's no need for a discovery call or back and forth or requesting more information, nothing like that. So we have traffic HLAs, conversion HLAs, and the third part is high leverage assets for delivery. So digital products, where the product is automatically delivered as soon as someone buys, that's a very common high leverage asset, as well as things like group programs, courses, memberships that people can join and get started without you needing to intervene. And by the way, this happens even if you're highly involved once they're inside. I want to emphasize, high leverage assets still allow time for real human connection, serving members, answering questions, engaging. I do all of those things. So we've got traffic, conversion, and delivery. When we build our business out of high leverage assets, like the examples I just gave, we are setting up the ability for money to be made without you being a bottleneck. So for me, someone can find me on YouTube, join my email list, or sign up for a free class and move on to join a cohort for a course or a membership all in the same day. During our summer trips, I don't have to keep creating new social media content to get discovered. Nobody has to request more information from me to learn how to work with me or get an offer. Nobody has to wait for me to book a discovery call to learn more or anything like that. And again, I want to emphasize, I added these pieces as I went. Okay. A few years ago, I didn't have any of these. I mean, let's be honest, I didn't even know what some of them were. But without these high leverage assets or HLAs, being done by lunch will never happen. That's why you'll always feel like you have to do more. Tiny humans will continue to say, Mom always works, Dad always works. Now, in just a minute, I'm going to share a psychological trick that you can use to work 5 hours less per week starting next week. It's probably the fastest way for you to get started working less. But let's talk about what to do if you think being a done by lunch entrepreneur doesn't sound possible for you. I'm 100% aware that for some people, this goal sounds completely unrealistic, me being one of them a few years ago. I told you earlier how I felt stuck, right? I felt like I couldn't work any less than I was. But instead of saying, I could never, must be nice, I challenge you to ask yourself, well, what would it take for me to cut my workload in half and be done by lunch? And maybe the first answer is, well, I don't know, win the lottery. But then it's like, okay, well, what other ways? Because here's the beautiful thing. Being a done by lunch entrepreneur is a choice. And knowing that is really powerful. I wish someone had told me that a few years ago and given me permission to work less. I was too scared for a while until I figured this out. I believe that if you're an online entrepreneur, we have this leverage that brick and mortar businesses don't have, that a lot of entrepreneurs don't get. So it becomes a matter of whether we choose to take advantage of this or not. And I can 100% guarantee you'll probably have to be willing to do things that will make you uncomfortable. Because if you didn't, you'd already be where you wanted to be, right? But going back several years, I didn't see myself as a YouTuber. I barely saw myself as an entrepreneur. There was a time I was uncomfortable with that. Oh no, I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm a small business owner. But fast forward 3 to 5 years from now, from today, do you think you'll wake up one day and regret working less? or having a more well-rounded life? I doubt it. I'm challenging you to say no to traditional online entrepreneurship. I'm challenging you to let me help you create a business that allows you to do what you enjoy, work with the people you want to work with, and make the money you desire. That freedom and control. Because otherwise, how are you going to feel in 5 years if you dismiss this idea today as being too extreme or impossible, and then later see it working for more and more people? I'll tell you this, nobody ever regrets having a high leverage asset working in their business. They only regret not creating one sooner. And if you're working 40 plus hours per week and you don't believe it's possible to run your business in 20, then start by believing it can be run in 35. And then maybe we'll move on to 30. Now, normally at this point in the podcast, I know people ask you to buy something. I'm not doing that. But if you are still here, I'm guessing you're intrigued by the idea of working less, by the idea of being a done by lunch entrepreneur. And because my ultimate goal is to bring together a community of online entrepreneurs who support each other in achieving time freedom using these high leverage assets, podcasts, YouTube channels, email, webinars, and more, I want to invite you to sign up for our Done by Lunch email newsletter, where I'm going to be sharing firsthand experiments, inspiring stories, case studies, and more specifically, actionable strategies that you can be taking to get this going in your business, designed to help you create these high-level assets so you can become and stay a done-by-lunch entrepreneur. Because by helping each other build businesses that don't require endless hours, we can create a new culture where entrepreneurship and freedom coexist, and where fewer entrepreneurial dreams are abandoned. You can sign up using the link in the description or show notes of this episode right now. Here's how you can free up 5 hours per week running your online business right away. It's easy, but it's also really hard, okay? First, the easy part. There's a basic psychological principle that we can take advantage of. Put simply, the amount of work we have to do will fill up the amount of time we have to do it. If you've got a project and 5 hours to get it done, it'll take you 5 hours. If you have 13 hours and 16 minutes, then it will take you that long. You ever gone on vacation and gotten an obscene amount of work done the day before or the week before? Here's why it's hard though. It's really hard to tell yourself you have to be done with something by 3 p.m. when you know you can keep working on it until 5. That's why we help people become done by lunch entrepreneurs. It's a firm deadline in most of our days. And I know if I don't get to eat until I finish my work, I'm going to get it done, right? That being said, if we knew we had to finish our work 1 hour earlier every day next week, I'm confident that all of us could get 40 hours of work done in 35 hours. So do this. Make plans that would be hard to get out of that start every day next week, 1 hour before you normally stop working. I'll bet you can get the same amount of work done in your business in 35 hours that you would in 40. And if you can't, come back to this and tell me in the comments. And of course, tell me if you do. So how do you get started being a done by lunch entrepreneur? How do you know if you should focus on a high leverage asset for traffic, conversion, or delivery first? That's what I'll help you do in episode 2. So hit follow or subscribe in your app, and we'll see you there.